Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shalom. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who pushed this word in truth and sincerity. Peace and salutations to the whole elect pushing this word across the four corners and to the sincere Aquath listening and in silence in these last days. It's your brother Yadai for the DC Church, and Lord's will, this video will be edifying, short, and straight to the point. And I'm going to entitle this video, as you can see on the screen, "I'm Under Tension." You're used to working out, you're familiar with what this term is. But if not, here's what it means right on the screen. "I'm Under tension" refers to the amount of time a muscle was under strain during a set. This concept is a key factor in muscle hypertrophy, which is growth, and strength gains. Now, time under tension is a term that's used in the fitness industry and is used in practice for muscular development. Now, what inspired this lesson was speaking with someone about doing lifts in a slow and controlled pace, because that's what's required to put your muscle under enough tension for a certain amount of time to develop. Now, what I'm going to do is explain the benefits of time under tension as it pertains to the muscle, also how that relates to your spiritual growth in this walk. Because at the end of the day, this is faith is also an exercise. You have to exercise it. Reading, studying, repetitions, doing things over and over again until you master it. But time under tension, or if you see the term TUT, that's what it means, is essential because it increases muscle duration under stress. So basically, you're able to endure longer. And endurance is one of the main things that we talk about in this truth. Okay, it's a marathon and not a sprint because the race isn't given into the swift. Right. So it also maximizes muscle fiber recruitment. So basically, what that means is that it can enhance endurance by activating more muscle cells during the exercise. Okay. And it also says metabolic stress and damage, which drives muscle growth and strength, and also controlling the tempo forces the muscle to adapt, which improves endurance and ensures higher quality and also better controlled movement. Let's get deeper into what these things are. Like, for example, I went into hypertrophy, maximize your muscular growth, right? So the longer time of detention causes more micro tears in the muscle fibers. Then it requires the body to repair them to be stronger and larger. Talk about metabolic stress, and it helps increase that. So sustained tension keeps blood flow restricted to the muscle. So that promotes greater metabolic stress, which is a key factor for muscle growth. So enhances strength and endurance. Again, slow is control. If you have to lift a heavy weight fast, that means you lack control of that lift. Okay. So slowing down your reps, particularly the eccentric, which is the lowering phase. So for example, if you're doing a bench press, when you start to lower to your chest, that's the eccentric phase. When you push back up, that's the concentric phase. Okay. Lowering phase, that builds the strength, that builds the muscular endurance. A lot of times when you're benching, you'll have a count, like a 4 or 5 second count before you actually touch your chest and push it back up. That's more time under tension. But when you actually maximize time under tension, it helps encourage better form as well. Focusing on tempo reduces the reliance on momentum. Like swinging your back backwards just to help do a bicep curl is not actually working your bicep the way it should be. You want to be able to stay firm and controlled, be able to isolate the muscles you're working on. That forces better technique and reduces your risk of injury. And it helps you overcome plateaus. So changes the tempo to increase time under tension provides a new stimulus for the muscles. It triggers further improvements when progress we feel like it's stalled. It takes you to a new level. Okay, so how does this apply to spiritual growth? Here, it's used as a metaphor for leaning into difficult seasons rather than rushing to escape from them. Just as muscles grow when they are forced to endure stress for a prolonged period, spiritual maturity or growth often requires staying under the weight, which is the trials of uncertainty or disciplined practice. Okay? So, one, when you're embracing the eccentric phase of trials in the gym, the eccentric or the lowering phase that I talked about earlier is where most muscle damage and growth occur. So spiritually, this translates to how you handle the lowering seasons, times of loss, doubt, or even waiting. That's where patience is going to be much more needed. How is this applied? So instead of rushing to resolve, meaning we don't make haste, the tension of a difficult question or a painful season, you hold that weight. You endure it. You pray for the spirit and the strength to be able to get through it. You acknowledge that not having all the answers is a form of spiritual time under tension. That builds a stronger and a more resilient faith. You got to continue to carry your cross, just like it talks about in Matthew 16:24. I'm not going to get it, but it's just precepts that came to my mind as I'm reading these things. I got a couple of precepts that I'm going to get to at the end. I just wanted to get to how this is relevant from talking about physical exercise, which is still beneficial, or it relates to your spiritual growth as well. Number two, eliminating momentum and spiritual disciplines. So, time under tension works by removing cheating through momentum. Remember how I was talking about those momentum bicep curls? You're not really isolating that bicep to do the work that it should. All right. So, in a spiritual life, it's easy to go through the motions, which is the momentum, without true engagement. You're kind of just going with the flow. You're kind of just here. You're not really actually engaged and actively participating. You're just going through it. Well, how does that apply to your life? You actually want to slow down your spiritual habits. Instead of rushing through a 5-minute prayer or maybe a 5-minute study session or just anything like that, don't, or even if it is 10 minutes or even if it's an hour, no matter how long it is, you actually want to be active and engaged in whatever it is you're doing. Like an inside narrative talking about, okay, what did I just read? Do I actually understand it? You know, you want to spend a prolonged time in one specific area. Okay. That way, the slow work moves truths from your mind to your heart. Now, when I say from your mind to your heart, you're not just going through the motions, but now that's your entire being. Okay. So you want to embrace endurance to be able to finish the race. Three, they call it spiritual isometrics. So being able to stay still, being still within the Lord. Okay. Being still within the word. So isometric tension, for example, to give you a visual, that's a plank. Muscles are constantly contracting to stay in that position. So isometric tension involves holding a position under load without moving. Right? So how does that apply? This is the practice of solitude and silence. Sitting in the tension of silence without the distraction of a phone or music is a high tension spiritual exercise. It forces you to confront internal noise and builds the muscle of peace presence. Now, four, it says leaning into resistance, meaning you're leaning to discipline. So muscles only grow when they meet resistance. So if a workout feels easy, it's likely not triggering growth. Just like I mentioned earlier, just going through the motions and not being truly engaged into it, and you kind of just meeting a quota, that's not going to really help you grow. Okay. How does this apply? Choose disciplines that challenge your specific weaknesses. If you struggle with greed, the tension of sacrificial giving is what will grow your generosity. If you struggle with cynicism or skepticism, the daily rep of finding things to be thankful for provides the necessary resistance to change your outlook. Now, here's the one that famously everybody's heard: progressive overload. So, just as you increase weight or time in the gym, you can increase the load of your spiritual commitments. First, you're going to deal with certain things, but when you just jumping in, you're not going to overload yourself with too much, you know, or just like we desire the sincere milk before we start taking the strong meat. Okay. So, how is this applied? The application is start with small, consistent reps, you know, for example, even just setting certain times for prayer, making sure you get a little bit of time for studying, maybe a chapter in a book, certain things like that. Don't try to make it too much, too hard for you. Okay. And then you'll gradually increase the duration and intensity. So consistency over time transforms a difficult lift into a sustainable habit. It's coming like this to you, just like the back of your hand. Now it's a commitment, it's a habit, it's routine. It's something that you're going to be doing because this is something that you want to grow in. So now I'm going to get some precepts just to back up everything I was talking about. Lord willing, this doesn't sound all over the place. So these verses that I'm going to show, It shows that trials recruit and develop deeper faith, much like training intensity. All right. So trials as spiritual growth. I'm gonna start here in James 1 and read verses 2 down to 4. It says, my brethren, count it all joy when ye fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. So trials produce steadfastness and it brings completeness. So when you have time under tension, it means when you stay in trials, instead of running from them, your faith is being worked like a muscle. So the longer you endure the pressure, the more patience and spiritual maturity builds. Go spend too much time on each one, just roughly going through each one, briefly going through each one, so you can see how it applies to the information I just gave you. Romans 5, read verses 3 down to 5. and not on and not only so, but we glory in tribulations also, knowing that tribulation worketh patience, and patience experience, and experience hope, and hope maketh not ashamed, because the love of God is shed abroad in our hearts by the Holy Spirit, which is given unto us. Right. So suffering produces endurance, character, and hope. So tribulation is the tension that produces endurance over time. As you stay under that pressure, it develops character and a proven faith that leads to hope. So that's talking about trials as spiritual growth. Now we're going to refining us under pressure. So similar to the metabolic stress that I brought up, trials are likened into a refining fire. Let me go get First Peter 1 and read verses 6 and 7. It says, wherein ye greatly rejoice, though now for a season, if need be, ye are in heaviness through manifold temptations, that the trial of your faith, being much more precious than of gold that perisheth, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto praise and honor and glory at the appearing of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. So trials, the genuineness of your faith, which makes it stronger. And the trials are like heat gold, right? The longer the fighting process, the purer the faith becomes. So time under that testing proves that your faith is genuine and valuable. A good one right here, Zechariah 13 and 9. Actually, I'm gonna read 8 and 9 because it's going into the part of how the difference is going to happen between the elect and the two-thirds. But Zechariah 13:8, it says, and it shall come to pass that all the land, saith the Lord, two-thirds therein shall be cut off and die, and the third shall be left therein. Talking about one third, two thirds. Or bring the third part through the fire, and refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, the Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai is my power. So the Lord promises to refine his people like silver and gold. But that means the Lord is going to put his people through the fire. Why? To refine them like silver and gold. The tension of that process removes the impurities or the dross, as they mention in the scriptures, so that a true relationship with Yahweh Yahweh Shai can be formed. Now we're going to go to talk about the spiritual training and discipline. Let me go to First Timothy, read chapter 4, read verses 7 and 8. It says, but refuse profane and old wives' fables, and exercise thyself rather unto godliness. For bodily exercise profiteth little, but godliness is profitable unto all things, having promise of the life that now is, and of that which is to come. Right? So this encourages training for godliness, emphasizing it over mere physical exercise. That's not saying physical exercise isn't beneficial. It's just saying you got to prioritize your spiritual growth over that. Because at the end of the day, taking care of yourself in all aspects makes you a better servant for the Lord. So physical exercise is not xed out. It's just spiritual is more prioritized. So just like physical training requires repeated effort over time, spiritual training requires discipline under pressure. So staying consistent builds strength that has eternal value. No, let me go to Hebrews 12, read verse 11. It says, now no chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous, grievous, Nevertheless, afterward it yieldeth the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby. There you go. But that lets you know the peaceable fruits of righteousness that it talks about in Galatians 5. You can read verses 22 and 23. I'm not going to get it, but that's where you can look at the fruits of righteousness, fruits of the Spirit, right? But you have to exercise those things. It's not something like, okay, I got it and that's just it. No, it has to, we have to examine ourselves every day. So this is something that has to be exercised every single day because we still living in these bodies where the old man resides. Okay. So discipline, though it's painful, it says what? It yields the peaceable fruits of righteousness. So discipline feels painful while you're in it. Just like when you're holding the weight under tension. You're holding that weight. Sometimes you can't wait to hang it up. But if you endure it, it produces the righteousness, peace afterward. It's like when you finish that lift, over time, those muscle fibers start building back up. And now you receive the reward of getting stronger. All right. Now we're talking about sustainable endurance. Let me get a few more and I'm going to close out. Hebrews 12 and 1. Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doeth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Yahweh Shai, the author and finisher of our faith, because once Yahweh Shai returns, there's no point in having faith that he's going to return because he's there. He's right there. All right. Who, for the joy that was set before him, endured the cross. Mentioned carrying your cross earlier, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. And so this encourages running the race with endurance. And running the race of faith requires endurance, meaning you stay under the strain and keep going. You don't quit when it gets hard. And that's the one I'm going to bring up next. It's time under that pressure builds perseverance to be able to finish that race. Just because I brought that up, I'm going to get Galatians 6 and 9. And it says, and let us not be weary in well doing, for in due season we shall reap. We faint not. So this urges us to not grow weary in doing good. And doing good is what's pleasant in the eyes of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. So doing good over a long period of time can feel tiring, staying under tension in a workout. But if you don't quit, there will be a harvest from that sustained faithfulness. It's like the consistency of being, this is the sustainability of just keep doing a workout over and over again, consistently doing it over and over and over again. That's what's going to help you achieve the results that you're trying to get. An honorable mention, 1 Corinthians 9. Jump from 24 down. When Paul released this thing, it's talking about shadow boxing. He's not fighting as if he's just beating the air. He has a purpose in why he's doing it, roughly paraphrasing. You see? He's disciplining his body. Beat it and subject him to make you do as it will. So just to reiterate everything that I was going over, I'm under tension fits with these verses because spiritual growth happens while you endure under pressure over time by avoiding it. So just like I got in James, Romans, Peter, and Zechariah, those show that trials refine faith like fire and producing patience and a proven character. And just like training, it talks about in Timothy and the running the race in Hebrews, the faithful will stay under the weight until it builds endurance. And they're not going to quit just because things are taking too long. And then what I got in Hebrews and Galatians that show that pain now produces righteousness later if you don't quit. So the Lord used sustained pressure to train, purify, and strengthen the faith the same way that muscles grow through time under tension. That was the lesson right there, Lord willing, that made sense. Again, it's all just about time under tension. Under that time under the tension, we actually got to take advantage of it. It doesn't feel good at first, but really, when you have the eyes to see, you understand that, you know what? The Lord doesn't chasten those that he don't love. So this is a good sign that we may be part of the elect. Lord willing, we're part of that number. But again, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakwa, and double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well and push this word in truth into sincerity. Till next one.